will be natural. Once you know what value creation is, you see, look at nano car. And who created the nano car? A person who went to school in a Rolls Royce. His name is Ratan Tata. He went to school in the most expensive car, yet he created the cheapest car in the world. And who were they created for? They were created for people, middle class, rural middle class, who couldn't afford to buy expensive cars. You know who bought the nano cars? They had projected 300,000 pieces or something. It has sold 500,000 pieces in 6 months' time. And who were buying them? Very rich people were buying them for their grandchildren as first gift. The CEO of Tata Motors was in UK, and Mr. Ravikant, and he was telling this to me. He said he was in the US. They stopped him at the airport and said, when are you bringing nano to America? No, they're now going to Europe because those cars are very savvy. So you can see it was created for the so-called, but it has created a value, that volume awareness has created a value on such a large scale that all of a sudden you realize that fundamental to the Indian thought process is that value does not matter, only volume matters. Politicians don't understand this. If they understood it and if they applied this logic differently, there is no quarrel between popular mandate and creating value. You create exceptional value, you don't worry about your next term, you'll probably be there for many, many terms. You look at the 2 chief ministers who have been re-elected, they were creating value, genuine value, otherwise they would not find the mandate. Well, of course they were creating value for volumes of people, large number of people. And it is very important for us to remember this. The final thing that I want to say is about 3 disciplines, because I always go by rules of 3 and 3 is easy to remember. So I'm looking at purpose as the starting point of the journey of nation building. Passion does not come from the lungs. Passion does not come from whiskey. Passion does not come from watching a beautiful woman on screen. Passion comes from the human heart. And passion comes from a purpose that is embedded in the human heart. Not the biological heart, but the heart of existence, heart of life. Passion comes only when you are committed to something larger than yourself. If I can't commit to something larger than myself, I will not be passionate about anything, believe me. I cannot remain passionate about anything unless it is larger than myself. You try anything, whether it's Alfonso Mango or it's your professional acumen, you have to extend the frontiers of your work beyond your personal goals, personal ambitions, personal, narrow focus. That is the source of passion. I'm reminded of a great Indian emperor, Ashoka. The man started by killing as many people as he could. In Kalinga, he discovered that that isn't getting him anywhere. Just trying to be an emperor by killing people and becoming number 1 in the country doesn't help him anymore. So he changed trajectory. He said that I have something bigger than myself to look for, and see the passion with which he did it. Fundamental to great work, great energy, if all of us sitting here, if we just ponder this a little bit. Each time we had a child, or something was born, it was not a very easy thing to accept. That there's a additional burden in the family. If you look at just the number, but if you look at the real issue here is that you're passionate about another life which goes beyond your life. Maybe the same child will go out somewhere and not be part of you anymore, but the passion does not diminish. You're passionately committed to the child, right? Not because the child is serving a very narrow goal for you, but the child is serving something larger than you, that's something beyond you. And it is very important for us to recognize that if a Sachin Tendulkar performs consistently in the cricket field, it is not about his milestones that he's passionate about. Of course, milestones are achieved. He's passionate about a cause, because he knows that on his shoulders rests the aspiration of whole of India. He is aware of that. And once he goes, he wants to win the tournament for India. When a politician of the caliber of a Gandhi or a Nehru or a Jinnah, whosoever, has made a mark, when these people come and they say that I have a passion for something larger than myself, they automatically get energy. The more inclusive that passion is, the more it includes others in its fold, the greater is the energy. And if you forget this, If you teach in our schools children to be narrow-minded, like those coconut trees of your state, standing parallel to each other, never meeting, never communicating, all right, then they will be dispassionate. You know, it is showing up such bright children, completely boxed into one very, very narrow way of thinking. You know, we are killing our state in our schools. I'm so sorry to say this, but teachers are likewise, you know, absolutely focused on delivering a lecture, not worried about whether it is being learned or not, and going back to school. In the process, killing a child's curiosity, killing a child's imagination, killing a child's ability to create anything exceptional. This is mass suicide. And I'm raising a voice because I know what it means really going forward. The second aspect is productivity, and productivity is fundamentally not again about volume, it's about how do you create the highest value for the largest number of people. In the Indian context, what productivity would mean, which simply means that any successful enterprise in this country, any business, any organization has to compete in this national context at least. This enterprise has to see that what I do today can be leveraged beyond my location, beyond my local kind of thing. If Calicut Management Association does something that is only local in its impact, then it will not be as productive as it would be if it said that what I do today will impact a national agenda. So if I do a program with IIM for the Cabinet of Kerala, then its impact would be much greater than my location. And if Roshan is reading out something about India and China, because he understands that if your mind space around what you're doing does not go beyond your immediate local concerns, then you will not be productive in that sense, because productivity is also a function of recognizing patterns. You see, the most productive instrument that we have is the human brain, right? Most of us don't read anything about the brain because we think brain is nothing but God's gift and I don't have to do much. You know, brain needs food. And the food for the brain is to allow brain's conditioned thinking to go beyond its conditioning. Otherwise the brain will die. If you allow your brain to do the same thing over and over again and not looking beyond its conditions, then the brain will die. And the food for the brain is attention, which is broad, which is deep. Do you see this? If I'm sitting down and conducting a meeting, then I'm brain dead in no time. Half of you will go to sleep. But if the same meeting was conducted here with all of you standing up, the meeting would be over in 50% less time would be taken to finish the meeting, number one. Number two, there is 20% more circulation of energy in your brain space when you're standing up rather than sitting down. All right? So a productive brain is a brain that is constantly being exercised. Now, are we doing that? The only one way to do this is enhancing your attention. The other way to do that is to convert information into images. You see, you're trying to describe that shampoo and then you say, well, or the hair of a particular woman in that advertisement, shampoo advertisement, and somebody says, you know, that hair looks like silk. Immediately you can recall it. But if somebody gave you a definition of the hair in medical terms, you would not even remember. Because when you convert information into images, your brain is 800% more productive in remembering it. Now, these are some of the basic aspects of using your most productive instrument, which are not taught in the school system, nor do we learn it in the course of our work. So finally, I'm going to end with the last P, and this is where I always end, which is the world of possibilities. And this is, I think, under Roshan and under the guidance that he has around him, this association is at least going to think around possibilities rather than the usuals. Now, what are the kind of possibilities that we might think of in terms of your role in the Kerala as a state has generated a perception nationally and globally as a state that is very different from the rest of the country. And the differentiation is perceived only in very, very standardized imagery. The image is coconut tree swaying in the breeze, some retired people's having a good time here. And the imagery also includes something like this is against industrialization, this is against progressive movement of anything else except for its own. So this is the standard images around Kerala, which is not doing Kerala any good. Some of it is great, some of it is not so great. Is it possible then for some of you sitting here who are very gifted, who are very capable, who have done wonderful things, to reconstruct the image of the state in a way that those images will remain in the minds and hearts of your young population, and when they actually carry those images to their natural conclusion, when they carry those images to where those images should be, because images are very powerful. So can you give your posterity, can you give the next generation who will come here some very powerful images that will help them break out of their thought domain? I'm going to share with you one last experience of the major financial crisis that happened in the United States. I was in Switzerland sharing notes with some very eminent thinkers around why this crisis happened. You know, a place called Lausanne in Switzerland is the Olympic village, and we were having a conversation, and something interesting came up there. He said these great people in the financial services were very bright people, but they were thinking the same thing, they were eating the same kind of food, and they were thinking of getting money very quickly without bothering about consequences of how to make that money. And the result was they were behaving like a herd of sheep which was going over a cliff. Nobody warned them that they might fall together, and they fell together. And the whole world economy came down as a result of this. If all of us sitting in the room are thinking alike about how dismal politics is, how boring life is, why our children go out rather than stay inside the state, if that is the dominant image in the conversation, then we will not move forward. But if the conversation is one about hope, about optimism, and if the conversation can be created by this forum of wonderful people that I see, very bright people, locked in their own imagination, if that conversation can shift to another set of images, I think this will be a day to remember, worth remembering. And before I conclude, I wish to convey my heartfelt greetings to Roshan and his team for leading this association to wherever only he can. And I'm pretty certain that you will see a very different face of this management association. I'm absolutely certain, because the little I know about Roshan, he will not leave it the way he found it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those words that has actually ignited our passion to excel.